get underway. Amy, to you and your wonderful elves, this is simply stunning. And I haven't been here for long, but I am aware of the fact that you go to an effort on our behalf every year. It is deeply appreciated, and let's hope that the festive cheer that you are creating will result in a very pleasant meeting for everybody. Special good afternoon, I guess it is, to Councillor Anna Casey-Cox, who's beaming into us from some exotic location in the US. Good to have you with us, and I think apart from that, we have a full house. So, to our kaumātua Tame, welcome, thank you. Could I invite you to open our meeting with karakia, please?
Morena tātou e hui kotahi I ruto I te whare o te kaunihira. Kia ena I tā wahi, ka nui te mihi atu ki aia hoke. Tēnei te mihi atu ki a tātou katoa e hui tahi. Mō tēnei hui whakamutunga mō te tau mō koutou ngā kai kaunihira. E tanu koro matua ka nui te mihi atu ki a koutou. Me ngā mema o te kaunihira. E kimi ana he oranga mō te taone rangatira ki a tātou kirikiri roa. Ara, te kōpū māne o kirikiri roa. No reira e te atua kaharawa, korowai tia I rungi te rangi Māori e me te aroha, whakatongia tō wairua tapu ki roto ki tēnā o mātou, kia hiko I rungi te tikanga heke mai te rangi ki te whenua. Ko koe tō mātou piringa, anei mātou whakawhetai atu, kia koe I rungi te tō mātou kai whakaora, o ake. Amen. Amen. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, Tame, thank you very much, and Merry Kirihemati to you. May I call for apologies, although I think we have a full complement, so I'm assuming that there are none. Then we'll move on, please, to the confirmation of the agenda. Would somebody like to move that? Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor O'Leary, seconded by Councillor Pike. Thank you. All in favour, please say aye. Against, no. That is carried. Are there any declarations of interest relating to anything on our agenda today? There being none, we will move on. I beg your pardon. Councillor Mead.
Yeah. Was on anyway. Just regarding when we're in public excluded later on, there is a conflict that makes no interest. That is not going to be a conflict, but I have knowledge of somebody involved in something. So it's not going to be a conflict. I've explained it to Amy. So
governance is aware of it, and but it won't prevent Councillor Mead from participating in the discussion?
That's correct. So Councillor Mead is declaring an interest but noting that it's not conflicted, so he will take part.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. No further declarations or conflicts, rather? Then we will move on to public forum. Don't believe that there is anyone in the public forum today. So the next is the confirmation of the council meeting that was held on the 6th of November. That's been moved by Deputy Mayor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Huata. I presume there's no need to discuss that item, so I'll put that motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, no, that is carried. Thank you. So we're making good progress, and we move on now to the Chair's report. And I'll just signal at the outset that given that it's a fairly short agenda, but there's quite a lot of meaty stuff that we've all been working on that has contributed to the Council, so to the Chair's report, that I have signalled that if members would like to take up to 3 minutes to speak and debate, that would be fine. It doesn't mean you have to, but sometimes it can be difficult to say everything you want to in 2. I know I have that problem. So, it is a fairly lengthy report, and of course it's available online and in your agenda packs, so I'll take most of it as read and we'll just cherry pick some aspects of it. I intend to save some thank yous and Christmas messages for my right of reply, but I'll just make the point at the outset that it's 2 months today since we were all elected to our current roles. And if you're like me, you've found it such an incredibly busy time, you probably feel it feels like more like 4 or even more than that. To the public, it may not seem that way because, of course, we haven't been having formal meetings and we haven't yet had any councils of the whole, which will be confirmed in place during the course of today's meeting. But I do want to assure everybody listening that all of your councillors have been working incredibly hard. We've had an intensive period of induction that has been a very thorough overview of most aspects of our organisation, with some more to come in the new year. And I want to commend all the councillors for the way in which you have contributed to those discussions, asked some very probing questions, which is appropriate as you come to terms with, for some of you, your new roles as governors of this organisation. I also want to thank the staff, and particularly you, Lance, but all your ELT colleagues and other staff who've been involved in that, because it has been a very thorough process. In my report, I refer to the fact that, of course, today we will confirm or approve the terms of reference for our governance structure, and that this includes the elected member appointments to governance positions, the schedule of meetings for next year, and the elected member support policy. So while it's been a slightly unusual period, as you would expect immediately post-election, I can assure you that from early next year, we will get into a rhythm and you will be having meetings for Africa. So fear not if you don't think you've had many so far. I do just want to make the comment, particularly as there are some members of the public who regularly follow our meetings, that it is our intention at full council meetings and at committees of the whole to bring forward public excluded items to earlier in the meeting, usually looking perhaps to have them between morning tea and lunch, to ensure that we do give appropriate time and consideration to often very significant matters that sometimes get squeezed out, and at the end of the meetings when people are needing to rush off, I haven't felt in the past they've always had due attention. But we will still sorry, not that they haven't had due attention, but that perhaps we have been a little bit faster, maybe not focused on some of the key issues as much as we would need to. So the intention is to ensure that we start our meetings in the new year, still with public fora, still with the opportunity to consider the Chair's report and some other important matters of business, but probably take a morning tea break, come back for the public excluded business, and then resume the full council meeting or the full committee of the whole after that point. Sorry, I thought I was actually, I just realised I've made a mistake. I was thinking I was into debate. So I apologise for that. What I do need to do is call for somebody to second my report, please. It has been seconded by the Deputy Mayor. So now we can move into debate, and I can assure you I'm not going to repeat anything that I've just said, and I apologise for that. That might mean that I can get through more than I want to. A major focus, of course, of today's meeting is the presentation of the Mayor's plan. And those who are watching may not know that it's actually a requirement under local government legislation for the mayors of your territorial authorities to provide, not necessarily called the Mayor's plan, but an outline of the direction of travel for the council. I want to thank again all councillors, because you've all contributed to developing that document. There are different perspectives, and that will be reflected from time to time in debate, and I respect that. But I do genuinely have great appreciation for the work that councillors have put into helping to shape the document. The Mayor's plan is a lens that we will be bringing all the work that we do over the next 3 years, we'll be running it through over the next 3 years, whether that's our annual plan, for which work is already underway, the long-term plan, which will be the huge job that we will get underway in sort of the second quarter of next year, but also all our business as usual activities. And it is my firm hope in producing this document that the Mayor's plan will give our residents and ratepayers the confidence that the issues that they highlighted and that we focused on during the election campaign have been noted, that the concerns that they have raised, particularly about the high level of rates increases and aspects of council spending, are not only being acknowledged by us as councillors, but will be specifically addressed as we look to try to track down to something that is more manageable, bearing in mind, of course, that we will, within 4 years, unless there's a major change in government thinking, be working in a rates capping environment. So it's not a question of, let's try to do this. Over a period of time, we have to do this, and we have begun that work, and I thank you all for what you've contributed to that. Of course, the annual plan is not the time for major upheaval. I do hope that we will be able to signal that we're making progress of the type I've just outlined, but the really significant work will come during the LTP, and we'll be underway with that reasonably soon, with the need to complete it all in 2027. And of course, it's not just rates capping that will affect the way that we operate. There's been major upheaval signalled by the government in recent times to local government of a type that has been described by many as the most significant changes to the local government sector since the 1980s, and I'm talking about the disestablishment of regional councils, the major RMA reforms that have just been announced, rates capping and other matters. So I will leave my opening remarks to that. That is, of course, the major focus of our meeting. I now open it up to all elected members to respond, and I will have a few more comments, no doubt, during the right of reply. So, Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. Let me begin by saying I'm very pleased with how you've started our training so far, and I am very impressed and supportive of your Mayor's plan. I think the 7 focus areas are the ones the public wants and needs. The detail is good, and I'm looking forward to working with that. I want to take this opportunity to flag the need for a deep review of the economic assumptions underpinning the current financial strategies, because to deliver your plan, we need to be aware that some of these assumptions are out of date, and we need to get a better understanding of the future expectations to inform our decision making. An example of this is for a high growth council, we need to be aware of the changes to the nation's immigration. 2 years ago we had a record high, 140,000 net immigration to New Zealand, not to Hamilton, but that was driving a very hot property market in Hamilton. The June figures were minus 200, so that's a very dramatic turnaround. The year to date is a 10-year low, excluding COVID, so that is very rapid turnaround in 2 years. This impacts on our growth strategy, on demand for housing, on demand for infrastructure. We need to have a better understanding of what is likely to happen over the next year for the annual plan, the next 3 years for the triennium, and the next 10 years for the long-term plan, because that will affect how we approach things and make our decisions. So I look forward to a review. Early next year would be good. It is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bidder. Councillor O'Leary, please.
Thank you, Mayor Tim, and thank you very much for your Chair's report and for your first plan and the inclusive way that we have all worked towards helping deliver that. I'm going to go quite high level for my debate on this. For any democratic system to work, there has to be a few things. First of all, we need a leader with a vision and someone who will set our direction, and you have done that. We need the decision makers, which are us, as well as you, people who are prepared to make the hard calls, to test the proposals, to test the projects, and to deliver that vision. Importantly, and most importantly actually, we need to continue to remember as we make those decisions why we're here, and that is to serve the people of this city, all of the people of this city, not just a few. If everything is a priority, then absolutely nothing is a priority, and you have clearly set that out, Mayor McIndoe, in your 7 themes. And right now, if we are not focused, we will fail. It's not because of a lack of ideas. We all have those, and we've seen those in the last couple of months. It will be because we lack discipline, and that's why I support the Mayor's 7 themes in the plan. And as we move straight through after the summer break into our annual plan and then straight into our long-term plan, those themes will not just be helpful, they will be essential. They will give us a shared framework for our decision making when the pressure is on, and that pressure is coming, make no mistake. This will be, and we have heard and discussed this as a team, the most challenging long-term plan that we have ever faced. While we might want to increase weed spraying and fill more potholes, the reality that we will be dealing with next year is significant challenges for all of local government. As Mayor McIndoe has already pointed out, we have government-imposed rates, we have major legislative changes affecting how councils will operate. We have the removal of our water services, we have the reorganisation of regional council functions, and possibly we may have a change of government as well. Every single one of those changes comes at real cost, real risk and real uncertainty. So this is not a time to be scattered in our thinking. This is not a time for pet projects or unanchored priorities. This is a time to be absolutely unapologetically focused, because that is the way we will protect our core services, our financial stability and our public trust. Mayor McIndoe, your plan gives us that focus. It is the guide that will navigate our decision making and what's coming up, and that's why I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. I presume the clock didn't go on initially at that time. But,
I could keep
so
going.
No, I'm tempted to say what she said, but I better not do that in the council meeting. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Mead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Tim. I've got a thing to say at the start. If you spend with haste, you'll be left with waste. As I stand here today, I want to acknowledge something very important to the people who voted for us into this council. They sent a strong message. They wanted a change, not change for the sake of disruption, but change that restores confidence, strengthens transparency and puts Hamilton first in every decision we make. I'm grateful for the committee roles I've been appointed to, and I take them seriously, none more so than procurement. Because procurement is where our decisions on spending priorities and value truly take shape. It's where we can either set up the city for success or fall into patterns that no longer serve us. I believe elected councillors must be involved at the very beginning of significant projects. We should help define the purpose, the consultation boundaries and the range of options, not simply making decisions at the end of a long process where choices have already been narrowed. Good governance means early input, clear expectations and transparent reasoning. We also need to remove the mindset that if money is available, it must be spent. It doesn't. And if a tender doesn't stack up, we're under no obligation to accept it. Hamilton deserves better than a tick-in-the-box approach to procurement. I want us to place more weight on genuine Hamilton businesses when awarding contracts. If a local company can deliver excellent value, create jobs and keep expertise inside our city, then we should count. We owe it to the community to ensure that our council spending strengthens Hamilton financially, not just the bottom lines of companies elsewhere. And while consultants have their place, we don't lead long strings of them. We need to empower our own staff who have the ability, the experience and the local knowledge to find sensible, cost-effective solutions. The Dio crossing is a great example. It was the most cost-effective option available, and it showed what happens when we put trust in staff to do things locally and physically well. I want to be very clear. I will not be a councillor who rubber stamps without consulting and understanding costs, the risks and the impact on ratepayers. I'll be asking for more visibility, more checks and more balanced discussions, not to slow things down, but we want to make sure we get them right. We can lead a council that is careful, thoughtful and genuinely aligned with the people who put us here. That's the change Hamilton asked for, and that's the change I will honour. And I back your report fully.
Thank you, Councillor Mead. Councillor Thompson, please.
All right, because we're standing up. All right, firstly, I want to thank you, Mayor McIndoe, for your work to get us to this point today where we have priorities for this term. I think there's stuff in there that everybody can support, and I particularly support us looking after our older suburbs, balancing growth with looking after other parts of our city where people do feel like they've been underinvested in, and looking after what we have. I look forward as Chair of City Delivery to leading work on ensuring that our infrastructure projects this term are addressing the highest needs in our community and are well supported by our elected members and by our community. We have a big job ahead of us to look at how we reduce costs as a council. I'm really keen, as I talked about through the election campaign, on looking hard at how we work with other councils. that could be shared services, but with the reform that the government is leading around regional councils, actually the conversation now may be looking more like amalgamation. We also need to be looking at how we deliver our services, and I feel very strongly that it's time we look at more parts of council being delivered in-house with less reliance on consultants. So fundamentally, we reduce costs without impacting on the important services that our residents rely on, and we all talked a lot about that during the campaign. And I don't want to see, ultimately, cost cutting lead to our city looking run down, our assets not being maintained, and parts of our community continuing to be underinvested in. That will be our choice. Rates capping is not going to be the determiner of that. We are. For example, we have a whole side of the city which has no access throughout the year to a council facility for swimming. We cannot go another 10 years without doing something about that. Rates capping is coming, but as I said, this is in our hands, is how we deal with that. But also RMA reforms. There are some massive issues that we're going to have to grapple with. Potentially, those are going to have huge costs to us if, for example, we have to be paying compensation for significant natural areas across our city. We only just finished a plan change and spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on doing that to protect our gullies across the city. What happens if now we have to pay compensation to those landowners who have significant natural area designations across their properties? There is no time where advocacy to government has been more important on core issues, because they cannot, on one hand, cap rates and on the other hand, impose even greater costs on council. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson. Councillor Strange, please.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in this House for the first time. And I speak in support of your plan. And I acknowledge your leadership. I acknowledge the collaborative style you've brought to the first 2 months of your leadership. And I'm sure that will continue, and I look forward to the next 3 years. So thank you. It is absolutely important, as we've heard from other members and we've heard from the public, that we do work hard to bring our rates down, because our current rate increases or our recent rates increases and proposed rates increases are not sustainable. There is a huge challenge out there for a lot of people in terms of the cost of living, and it's important that we work hard, and I'm confident that we will work hard to do that and hopefully have some good outcomes for our residents. We are a fast-growing city. One of the biggest challenges we have is in terms of our assets. We have a lot of ageing assets, so it's a question of how we fund the renewal of those assets, and within a constrained rates environment. So we're going to need some creative thinking. We're going to need some partnership, and we're going to have to show some leadership on that. I'd like to touch on the CBD, Mayor Tim. In terms of revitalising the CBD is the heart of our city, and I'm convinced that one of the most important things we can do to support our CBD, to support our businesses here, is to have more people living in the CBD. I understand we currently have around 2,000 people living in our CBD. If that was increased to, say, 10,000, we would see a completely different CBD. The vibrancy, the business, the spend, the opportunities in our CBD. So I think it's important that I know we have in the past, but we continue to engage proactively with our developers to encourage them to build apartment buildings in the CBD, so that we can see more people living in our CBD. It's important that our CBD is connected to the rest of the city, that it doesn't stand alone. And one example that I think is important is linking our new hotels that are coming with the Claudelands Event Centre. So looking for a cost-effective way, that we can make it easy for people when they come to a conference here at Claudelands, when they're staying in the hotels, that they can safely and comfortably walk across the bridge to the Claudelands Event Centre, and make it an enjoyable walk as well. And the second point I'd like to touch on is in terms of the plan, is the aspect around community. And I think it's important that we continue to work with our funding partners to deliver infrastructure for our community, particularly in the area of sports, which is an area I'm particularly passionate about. And I'll highlight a recent opportunity with the sports field lighting, where the over 50% of the money came from external sources. So I'm looking forward to us continuing to leverage and tap into external funding as we support our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Councillor Pike, please.
Jump the queue a bit. Thank you, Mayor, and fellow governors and councillors for your work on the Mayor's Plan. And especially in the collegial and inclusive way that it's been led by you, Mayor Tim. As noted in the report, we're facing a significant and difficult triennium with central government rates capping, regional council amalgamation, and RMA reform discussions all happening simultaneously. This means we need clear leadership that reflects the sentiments of the community that we've all heard loud and clear over the election period. So we have to apply a focus across our future decisions. As Councillor O'Leary noted, this is crucial in ensuring we can actually deliver, as decisions on the fly without direction sets everyone up to fail. So I commend you, Mayor Tim, for your work on the 7 priorities and allowing this framework to ensure that we'll be able to deliver in tight times. I want to finish by thanking our staff for the incredible work over the year. It has been a difficult 12 months with many submissions and several bills resulting in a huge workload and then reworkload on top of our BAU to support our 190,000 residents across Kirikiriroa 365 days a year. So I hope that they take well-deserved rest with their loved ones, and thank also the fellow councillors for their work and collaboration in the new triennium, and wish you all a Merry Christmas too. Thank you.
Pike, Councillor Moroney, please.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. I also want to congratulate you on your mayoralty, because I haven't had the opportunity to do that in the full council meeting, and also to thank you for the process, which has been, I think, a very inclusive and robust process that we've been able to go through as new councillors to learn about the information, because it's one thing to speak about without knowledge on the campaign trail about all your reckons and what you think might happen, but coming into now this environment with all the wonderful support of staff and all their wisdom and all the information that we now have party to, it's great to be able to be in that environment and have discussions around the table with people from a range of different perspectives, but everyone with a really important perspective to offer. And I think that's going to be our real strength going forward. I do just want to say 2 things about the election process. And one is that I want to also acknowledge all those people who stood unsuccessfully, but put all of their time and their financial input into thinking about what's good for the future of the city, because they love the city. And so I just want to acknowledge that all of those people have a contribution to make to the city, as well as all the people who we are elected to represent. The second point I want to make is that we should be careful about talking about the mandate that we've been handed with just 32% participation in the election process. There are the majority of Hamiltonians who did not participate in that process. We don't know what they think. We know that we have various things that we talked about on the campaign trail. I spoke about different things to many other people around this table, and I come forward with a mandate from a different group of people. We all have different mandates, but none of us have the majority mandate, I would say, of the city. So we've got to work hard for that, and I want to acknowledge what Councillor Mead said about the way in which we should be going about that, but I would say it's not just because of what Hamiltonians expect of us. It is because of that, but it's also because of what the Act requires of us. It requires us to actually undertake due diligence. It does require us to make efficient use of the resources, and it requires us to think about what the future looks like, not just for the current ratepayers, but for future ratepayers. And on that note, the wonderful opportunity we have as a city is that we can learn from the mistakes of Auckland. And that is one thing you'll hear from me over and over again. Let us not fall into the mistake of not planning for growth sufficiently. so that we get into Auckland's situation that they will never get out of. They will be constantly chasing their tail to get the right infrastructure in place to deal with the growth that they did not do at the appropriate time, and it just gets more expensive.
Thank you, Councillor Moroney. Deputy Mayor Taylor, please.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. Look, I want to congratulate the Mayor on his Chair's report and the way he is using his executive powers to present his vision and lead the agenda. So today this is about agreeing the Mayor's 7-point plan as a blueprint for what we want to get done this term. It's the key step that is going to guide everything we do. And for me, it's an excellent response to what we heard during the election campaign. Think about what we heard. We heard sensible, cost-effective infrastructure, not over-engineered roundabouts, less in-lane bus stops, less speed bumps. Better managed growth, looking after old suburbs as well as creating new ones, and finding a way to grow without the ratepayers having to subsidise it so much. Better focus on the central city, clean it up and make it safer, improve parking and support the great developments going on there. Ensure we're a city that's easy to do business with, one that welcomes good development. You'll remember the criticism we got from some developers last term over our wastewater capacity. A transparent, efficient organisation and one that is fiscally prudent. I know that was a huge theme. Those are the priorities. To me, that's what we heard. So this is the framework for the Mayor's vision for Hamilton, and it needs to guide our decision making. For me, if an issue doesn't tick one of these boxes, then it isn't a priority. And look, we've got the annual plan coming up very soon. We're keen to make an impact on that rate rise, and we will. But I want to emphasise that the big moment for this council, the make or break moment for this council, is the long-term plan. And that is the moment where you as elected members really get to make a difference. You really get to have your voice heard, and we can make fundamental changes to the structure. So the sooner we get our teeth into that, the better. Because as Councillor Thompson says, with the reforms, possibility of a unitary council coming in Hamilton, in around Hamilton, the rates capping, the RMA reform, this will be an unprecedented one. And I think we're all looking forward to that. Personally, I don't fear rates capping. I think a 4% threshold places Hamilton City Council where it actually needs to be in order to do right by our ratepayers. It's going to be challenging, but it's also, in my view, the direction that this organisation needs to head. So I want to congratulate the Mayor for his vision that he has outlined, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing this council enacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. And we're going to cross now to our US correspondent. I trust she's ready. She isn't showing on the board, but she's had her hand up for some time. I hope this is enough warning to get her ready. Councillor Casey Cox.
Thank you. And I agree with all the things that have been shared. Thank you to you, Mayor Tim, for leading a very consultative process. And I just want to note also that I guess these priorities all sit within a context, and we were shown a diagram which I don't think is in the agenda today, but of these priorities sitting within the context of some key strategies for our city, and that they still stand. And I think it's really important that we highlight that. So He Pau Manawa Ora, our climate future, inclusive Hamilton, and our partnerships. Because there is a bigger picture there, and we have consulted on those strategies, and they mean a lot to our community as well. And there were certainly things that I heard about during the election campaign. I also wanted to thank you, Mayor Tim, for your commitment to our community services. I mean, you did reiterate that quite a few times during the campaign, and I think that provides some assurance to our community going forward that's something you care about. And also in terms of our commitment to environmental issues, and in particular, our nature in the city, but also your commitment to Lake Rotorua. I think that's been very clear as well. So not everything is in the agenda today, but I think there is those bigger picture things that we need to also hold on to. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's very cold here, as you can tell. Yeah.
What is the temperature at the moment where you are?
Oh, I think it's...
Would it be in the negatives? Or?
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely, and lots of snow.
Oh, well, I hope you do have a white Christmas and a very, very happy one. Thank you. And you've noted the outline of the Mayor's plan and also the graph that is available online and in Diligent at the end of today's agenda. But thank you for drawing attention to it, and thank you for your contribution. Councillor MacDonald, please.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. First of all, thank you for the priorities that you've set out. I see the logic behind them and I support that. Now, we've heard it said time and time again because it's true. The public has elected this council with the clear expectation that things will not continue as they have. Our community is stretched, and it's our responsibility to align council behaviour with the financial realities faced by residents. When money is spent, we must be satisfied that the costs are reasonable, that there is clear, measurable justification for expenditure and outcomes that a resident would recognise as value, and that there's accountability that work is done properly, on time and to budget. Sometimes our community want the option to say no to things they don't want their money spent on. The mood I picked up is that people don't always feel talked with, they feel talked at, and they feel like they're asked when the decision is mostly made and there's no option to actually say, actually, we don't want any of those options you've presented, we'd rather you didn't spend money on that. As elected members, we need to be the same. We need the same, to be part of conceptual thinking, part of reviewing public feedback and then weighing up what will best align with our community needs. The Chair's report recognises both the strategic direction and the pressures ahead. To this end, I welcome the establishment of the Procurement Subcommittee. It is consistent with the financial responsibility and governance required, examining how we procure, whether spending is justified, appropriate, necessary. I also welcome the establishment of the Transport Subcommittee, a place focused on how transport decisions best serve our community, where safety and financial prudence can be prioritised. In preparations for the operation of that committee, we'll be taking a lens of financial responsibility, reviewing the decision-making framework adopted in the last term. For clarity, that framework governs what spend can be made by staff directly, what spend needs council sign-off. Given the current and mounting pressures on residents, it is appropriate that we check that this balance remains fit for purpose. Also on the Transport Subcommittee purview, as we start considering priorities, we will be thinking about the big issues, but also about the things that touch people day to day, like potholes, like existing in-lane bus stops and speed bumps, to consider the feasibility of removal or alteration as decisions are made amid the current fiscal environment. There is much to do, and I'm confident that if we're disciplined on the priorities set out by our Mayor, we can make things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Corrales, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My commentary in relation to the Mayor's plan is focused on matters pertaining to the Finance and Assurance Committee. I am supportive of the 7 guiding pillars in the Mayor's plan. Each pillar clearly reflects what we consistently heard from the community during the campaign across a broad section of residents and through multiple engagement channels. When it comes to the financial responsibility pillar, I am aware of the need to rebuild public trust in how council spends ratepayer money, and it has been good to have the opportunity to actively work with the CE on bringing visibility and transparency around our financial processes. I believe we haven't lost sight of the urgency that we sensed from our communities around addressing affordability at what now may be the tail end of a cost of living crisis. But we recognise that this tail for many in our community and our businesses will be a long tail. And on that note, I am pleased with the progress being made under the Mayor's leadership on a refined annual plan that aspires to deliver more affordable rates increases in the short term. At the same time, I believe a commitment exists to doing this in a way that does not undermine the significant opportunity the long-term plan provides. As has already been alluded, this is the real opportunity to fully reset our financial strategy, to revisit outdated assumptions, and to take a comprehensive look at where efficiencies and savings can be found. What we need to do, and I believe we are doing so as a group, is avoid shooting from the hip and making decisions in the short term without being fully informed about the consequences for council operations or for our ability to deliver core services in the immediate future. Throughout the campaign, we heard that some highly unpopular projects were driven by time pressures and the risk of losing funding rather than by what was genuinely best for Hamilton. We must take the time to make well-informed decisions grounded in evidence and data driven by the wishes of our communities. As Mayor McIndoe and Deputy Mayor Taylor has said, the LTP is where significant strategic financial decisions will be made, and in my opinion, we are preparing for a process that will need to be robust, unlike ever before, in light of the legislative changes ahead. And I will continue to push for a framework that enables a methodical approach and nuanced decision-making in terms of necessary trade-offs, not ad hoc decisions. I acknowledge the Mayor's 7 pillars as having been informed by the community feedback during the campaign, and that this plan forms a strong platform not only for the annual plan, but for the development of a new financial strategy, the LTP framework, and for sound decision-making across all areas of council business. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Councillor Corrales, thank you. Councillor Huata, please.
Tēnā tātou katoa i runga i te marama o kore e whiti ana te rā, he waua mā tātou katoa ki te kōkiri whakamua. I greet everybody on this moon cycle of kore, where the moon is waning, there's less energy. Couple that with the sun that's beaming, it's extra hard for us to get to the end of the year, but we're almost there. E mihi ana ki a koe te koromatua Tim. Mō I arihi a tātou kia anga whakamua. I want to acknowledge you, Mayor Tim, for bringing us all together to look to the future and learn from the past. Kia kuhoa, kaunihira, ki ngā whiakoranga, kei wainui a tātou katoa, e huro ana to my fellow elected members with all the skills, experiences, knowledge, aspirations amongst us that complement one another. There is a saying, never walk in front, never walk behind, always walk beside. So you have my commitment as a team member of this council that I will always be honest and upfront. And that's what we need as a team. To our community, thank you for coming in today. I want to mihi to you too, Jack, who was on the mayoral campaign trail with us. Our community, that's what we're here for. We're not here to muck around. I want to use an example of 2 food sources that are close to my heart. One that comes from this city. He kiri tuna. Me kiri tuna tātou. The skin of the eel speaks about being tough and resilient. We are going to be needing those attributes in the times ahead. And I love to eat it as well. Another food source I would like to talk about that comes from my home in Kāwhia, from the west to the west. It's the pātiki, the humble flounder, which I also love to eat. There is a saying, e kore te pātiki e hoki ki tōna puehu. The flounder never returns to its dust. Why? Because you're going to get eaten. So we need to move forward in these times that are going to be challenging together. And like I say, from learning from the past. I want to acknowledge all the different sentiments that were shared today. And the majority, I also share. I especially echo our most senior and our most experienced councillor at the table, Chief Whip, Councillor Angela O'Leary, and also our former MPs that have that knowledge at a central government level, Councillor Moroney and Councillor Strange. I am still a ihu hupe. As they say, still got to wipe my nose and learn from all of you guys. In my role as Chair of Economic Development and Growth, I look forward to also learning from our Deputy Mayor Jeff Taylor and from the principal advisors around us. I am not the expert, but my goal is knowing who the experts are and bringing them to the table. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, Councillor Huata. No further contributions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I will move then into my right of reply. Members, thank you so much. Thank you for the kind comments that many of you have made about my own style, but in particular, thank you for the way that you have thrown yourselves into your role. Many of you described my style as collegial and collaborative. that is definitely the way in which I intend to continue to lead to the best of my ability, noting that we are politicians and therefore from time to time we will have some spirited debate and disagreements, and that's healthy and expected in a democracy. I wouldn't want us not to have that. But I particularly appreciate the way in which all of you have been working to date. And I'm saying this obviously because I feel I'm addressing the public, but I want you to know how impressed I've been to see your strong support for our events in the community. How impressed I've been, as I've already mentioned, for the way in which you have been fully involved in our numerous induction sessions. How impressed I've been in the feedback that you've given on a range of topics. And the quality of your speeches in today's debate is hugely encouraging, because you have focused for the public on the issues that were widely campaigned upon, discussed. We know that they are concerns not only of Hamiltonians, but of ratepayers and residents right across New Zealand. And I am very, very confident that we have a good team of governors who will do our very best for this city over the next 3 years. And I thank you all for the roles that you are undertaking. It is no coincidence that my 3 main rivals for the mayoralty are all senior committee chairs. It's because I value them all. I know that Councillors Thompson, Huata and Corrales are people of considerable integrity, intelligence and professional experience, and I want to tap into that. And I believe that having that collegial approach will be in the best interests of our city. But I'm also very pleased with the passions that many of you have spoken about the establishment of new committees such as procurement, transport and many others, that I think we have got in place a process that can work well for the good of our city as we try to get ourselves back on to a more fiscally sustainable pathway. I'll just make a couple of comments at the end before well, as you know, I better go straight to. I do want to acknowledge the fact that it's very fashionable to kick the council. And I don't just mean Hamilton City Council, it's a bit of a fashion right around the country to kick local government. And we understand that. But could I just acknowledge that throughout this organisation we have some wonderful staff, starting from the top, Lance, through your executive leadership team, at all levels of this organisation, particularly governance with whom we have such regular contact. But in all of those departments, both within this building and out in our community, we have very capable, dedicated people working hard for us. So to all of our Hamilton City Council staff, huge thanks for the great job that you are doing and for working with us. And I'll conclude by saying I'm particularly encouraged by the fact that the Chief Executive and ELT and their staff are working with us. We are all cognizant of what needs to be done, and thank you, Lance, for the leadership that you are showing to enable us to focus on those core priorities and deliver what is expected. So to all of you, I say please do enjoy a little bit of a break over what looks as if it's going to be a very hot summer. I wish you all a very joyful and blessed Christmas season. I look forward to resuming with you in the new year when we will be busy. Make no mistake. But for now, Merry Kirihemeti Me Te Toho. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Moving on now to item 7, our governance structure, terms of reference and delegations for council and committees of council for the triennium ahead of us. And of course, this is the major focus of today's meeting. Open with questions?
Happy to go.
No questions have been indicated, but are there any questions? We've already to some extent discussed it. Councillor Moroney?
Thank you, Mayor Tim. I have a question around the establishment of the, I'm probably going to get the name of it wrong, the District Licensing Committee, the Alcohol District Licensing Committee, which I understand is one of the committees that we will be establishing here today. So that's my first question, is that the membership we are establishing here today in this part of the hui of the meeting?
Sorry, I can answer that, Councillor. The District Licensing Committee is a standing committee that's required by the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act, so it's not one that you're establishing.
No.
It is one that exists,
Yes.
and the reason why it's included in your structure is because it has to be, but there's already members on that committee. You do have the option to add members, as long as they're not existing commissioners who have a existing contract or appointment period that is dealt with separately under the legislation.
Thank you. Can I just have a follow-up question? So when we go through this process today, are we establishing membership of that committee for the next triennium, for 3 years, or?
No.
We're not. So we have another opportunity?
We will be bringing back in the new year further reports on the committee membership because you will be due by the time we get to June, July, to have added a few more people to the list.
Thank you. Can I explore this a little? Are you saying that the people who are listed there, we don't appoint, they are already appointed to the committee?
They've been appointed by previous councils.
Okay, thank you.
The current membership is bound by contract, so they have termed contracts.
Thank you. Where's that coming from?
Did you have any further questions?
Just a little bit about the foundation of my questions is that I would want some sight over when we do have decisions to make about the membership of this committee, about people's backgrounds, potential conflicts, that type of thing, because it's such an important committee in terms of safety in our city. Thank you.
I suggest that you might even want to frame something like that, because at the moment we're in questions, but when we get onto debate, do feel free to expand on those concerns. Thank you. Are there any... Councillor O'Leary has a question.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. Just one question. I'm on page 16. I think this will be to General Manager Helen Paki around, and I'm very supportive of reducing the red tape for community leases and making it easier. But point 3 on number 30 on page 16, it says one of the things staff are supportive of the app, or staff support the application. Can you give me an example of what that explains that?
I'm just looking, sorry.
Page 16, and it's 30 Roman numeral 3. It lists 3 things that the staff would have delegation over a community lease. A, meets the criteria of the policy, the occupancy tenure is within policy and guidelines, and staff are in support of the application.
Yeah, so so that staff have reviewed the application that's come through. So before the CE would sign off, he's reassured that it's met the terms appropriately, and so staff have provided their recommendation in support of the application that's come through.
Within the policy? And,
yes, within, yeah.
Right, okay, I understand. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor McIndoe.
Thank you. Councillor Corrales.
Oh, thank you. I've got two questions, and one is a point of clarification. And so do new leases is it staff's intention that new leases get captured by this change, or is it just renewals of leases? That's the first question.
Renewals of leases where there is no change. So the ones that we would bring to council would be the ones where the applicant might be asking for something outside of the policy. So with a new application, as long as it met the parameters of the policy, then staff could approve that. But if they were requiring something outside of the policy, then that would come to council.
So potentially some new leases would get captured,
Potentially,
provided they were within policy.
Yeah, providing they were within policy.
Okay.
Yep.
My second question is, and I fully appreciate that organisations need certainty so that they can plan, etc. As organisations age and grow, they do often become more sustainable. So my question is around with renewals. How do you ensure that new or emerging organisations that are able to meet the criteria, how do you ensure that they're given the opportunity to access and utilise community facilities. I suppose this is really goes to fairness. Yeah.
Yes, so so for example, so we do run expression of interest processes, and we run those from time to time, especially if we, so for example, with Celebrating Age, we've run a EOI process, and we have a number of facilities at the moment that do have current leases that are up for renewal, but rather than just renewing that renewal, we are taking the opportunity to run an expression of interest process that will come to council, and it does, and that's about also getting the best use of our facilities and making sure that we're optimising the space that we do have, so we will bring those expression of interest outcomes and recommendations to council. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Mead?
Just a question. Can, again, similar vein to Councillor Corrales, is how do we measure if the people who are leasing the buildings are meeting the criteria of enough community involvement? How is that reported, measured, sort of, because we know some buildings have a lease, but they're not making themselves available to a lot of other organisations, and there's empty gaps. So how do we manage that?
Yeah, I have got Maria Barry who's on her way because she does have the detail on some of these questions, but just, so she might be able to go into a little bit more detail, but we
That's fine. Until she gets there, Helen?
Actually, I mean, I can provide a
'Cause
surface
she's
answer,
right.
but she will probably provide a better answer.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought
awesome.
she's here.
I am online if that's helpful.
Welcome, Maria.
So there's probably, kia ora koutou, for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Maria, the Parks and Recreation Unit Director. There's probably a couple of things, councillors. The community occupancy policy sets out the principles by which we grant the leases, and it speaks to maximising community occupancy of the facilities. There's a mix of buildings. Some of them are owned by the occupants and some of them are owned by council, and our staff will be setting up regular meetings with those leaseholders and getting that information from them. There will be an opportunity for elected members to review the policy, and so if you wish to strengthen some of those clauses around maximum occupancy and how we report that back to you, there'll be an opportunity in the new year for that. It may also be helpful to note that a lot of these organisations are volunteers who have day jobs, so actually booking out buildings is difficult. So we'd like to work with them to understand what those challenges are and see where we can help there.
To answer the question? Well, I'm sorry, I'm not suggesting calling the question. Are you satisfied with the answer? You've heard the information you require?
Thank you, Tim.
Councillor O'Leary.
Apologies.
You have another one? That's all right.
I'm
In the
splitting
spirit,
my...
let's just take as long as you like.
I'm splitting all my screen, so there's all sorts of things happening. Page 17, just on the appointment to the Finance and Assurance Committee. Not sure who will answer this one. Is the intention, because the panel's made up of the Mayor, Chair of Finance and the CFO to manage the process, is the intention also, because you'll bring back a candidate that you prefer and only one, to provide council, I'm going to look at Lance here because he's got his finger on the button, with the list of those that have missed out. I only say that because in the past it has grinded to a halt in this chamber because some elected members has asked for, well, what about everybody else, rather than just trusting the process in the panel. What's the intention there?
Yeah,
or
we'll do that. Obviously, that'll be
consider it.
confidential so that
Of
it
course.
doesn't damage anyone's reputation if
No.
they're not successful.
No.
So we'll do that just so that you have everyone has a comprehensive overview of the process followed.
Great.
The people who may have expressed an interest, and then there'll be a reasoning why we came to the preferred candidate.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I am just wanting to clarify. I saw in our emails an amendment from Councillor McDonald. So is that being put up?
I was going to highlight before introducing the debate that we would need a seconder for that motion, but my understanding is that it will be proposed. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
So, since the question has been raised, we would need a seconder for the motion. Do we have a second?
So just a little bit of context around that. The recommendations, as we read them on page 13, talked about leases, and then throughout the report it talked about renewal of leases. So the intent for that amendment was that recommendation reflect what the rest of the report talked about, which was renewals. And so this is new information that actually it could capture new leases, not just renewals. I don't mind, I just wanted it to reflect what the rest of the report said.
Maria is online. I think she couldn't hear us before. She might just pop her camera back on.
The initial question was just, is the motion or the amendment proceeding? So can we just clarify that one first? The amendment will be advanced?
Yes.
Do we have a second? It'll be seconded by Councillor Bitter. Thank you. So if we could then perhaps have that clarification if Maria is back with us. Maria, were you able to hear the question and the commentary?
Yeah, so the question being, would it be just new leases or renewals of leases? My understanding is that based on the will of council, it could be both. So paragraph 30 speaks about the delegation to approve a community lease, and it is tied to that application meeting the criteria and the occupancy tenure being within the principles, but of course if council wish to see all of the new leases, then that could be added in.
Maria?
Mayor McIndoe, I also have a question. So there's a couple of changes here. So there's been a minor update. So
Sorry, are you still referring to Councillor McDonald's amendment?
Councillor McDonald's motion.
Yes.
So in F it says delegate staff to make minor changes, and instead of saying such as references in names and policies, it says limited to references and names. And I just want to clarify what impact that could have, because there's, for example, there could be grammatical issues or other things that we don't want to, for small things, have to come back to council to approve.
Sorry,
Can we get
Councillor? McIntyre, I wonder, there's a large agreement here on this side of the table, but I wonder if we can have 2 minutes to get that wording right rather than spend 5 minutes doing it. I know you don't like stopping, but...
Or even maybe if I explain the intent behind my suggested amendments, that might help
Be
clarify
helpful
for
to give
everybody.
Councillor Thompson the answer that she's looking for. And
So
then, if necessary, we'll take a 2-minute adjournment.
Thank you. So looking first at point B, which was the matter raised by Councillor Thompson, what I was seeking to do there was to define minor. So minor had been used further in the report, say that would give staff the delegation to make minor adjustments. And so what I was trying to do here is to define minor, because minor can be defined by some as minor and by others as substantial. And so I was trying to create a clear understanding of what was meant by minor. I'm happy to have minor defined differently or something that we all agree with, but that was the intent behind adding that, just to clarify that. The second part, which is in relation to part C, in terms of the renewal, the intention behind there was so that what was being reflected in the recommendations reflected what was talked about in the rest of the report. So the rest of the report didn't talk about new leases that fit the policy, it talked about renewals. And so the intention here was that we were approving something that reflected the rest of the explanation. If council would like to limit this to just renewals, I'm happy with that. That's what the rest of the report reflected. If council wants to have new leases be approvable by staff under the policy. I think that's something we should talk about, but that's not what was reflected in the rest of the report, according to my understanding. And I'll just deal with part E as well while I'm here, is in relation to the temporary road closure. The point on page 15 was that it would only be used for exceptional circumstances. And so all I was seeking here is that there is a record of those exceptional circumstances so we can be confident and sure that it is only used in exceptional circumstances, not as run-of-the-mill, which is clearly said is not the intention.
Okay. Thank you. So my question still, thank you, Councillor McDonald. My question still stands, though. It was only just to clarify from staff whether there's any issue with the wording change for paragraph F there.
So I can give you a recent example where so we've had our Woodworkers Guild.
Oh no, sorry, Maria. I think sorry, because I'm fine with C, which is the renewal of community leases, and I'm fine with E, which is request that information come back to us. My only concern was, and this is just a question to the relevant staff, is whether we are creating any problems with limiting delegations for the policy changes to only references and names. Is there anything that's missed out there that is minor, that we would all agree is minor, but this could put a spanner in the works for, or is this totally literally the only changes required that would be minor?
I can't say it is the only changes required, because sometimes it is those grammatical things that if you change to link to the policies, it might make it not grammatically make sense as much, but we do what we can.
Yeah.
Then, given that I think we do need just a little bit of wordsmithing here, we will have a 2-minute adjournment, but when I say 2, I don't mean 20. Please, could we try to keep it fairly short? And I hope that we can just tighten it up to ensure that everybody's comfortable with the spirit of the amendment. Thank you. So the meeting is resumed, and as always, 2 minutes was 5, but that's not as bad as it could have been. And I understand that agreement has been reached on a minor change to the amendment that should achieve the purposes of the mover of the amendment, while also, I hope, taking into consideration the concerns that were raised by councillors. So thank you for that work. There are no further questions at this stage, so we can move into debate on... There is another question. Councillor Huata?
Although I agree with the motion on the table as it sits, are we able to get them in a timely manner, not on the morning? Thank you.
Ideally, that is always the preferred approach, but I acknowledge the fact that from time to time issues only come to light near time. But if as a matter of practice we can try to get into the practice of submitting any amendments in good time, that would clearly be appreciated and would be consistent with the approach we're trying to take through the workshop process and all of the streamlining of our arrangements. But as has been acknowledged, we now have a slightly different amendment proposed by Councillor McDonald and I presume still seconded by Councillor Bidder. So that is there in front of you. And so we can move now into debate on the substantive motion. Now, I still lead off the debate as it's my motion, even though we have your amendment. And address, please, the amendment in your comments on the substantive motion if you wish to, and then we'll take the amendment first, and then if it's adopted, that will become the substantive motion.
Can I just a process question? So have you moved the staff recommendation as the motion? I thought the only motion on the table was the McDonald-Mead.
Apologies, we'll show both on the screen. There was the Mayor Tim and Deputy Mayor Taylor had moved the original staff recommendation, and then there was the amendment from Councillor McDonald and Councillor Bidder.
You can withdraw it.
Yeah, well, I've just noted that the clock is counting down and I haven't even begun my debate yet.
We just need to clarify that. I didn't think that was what you wanted.
So could you just clarify again, Amy, so that when we commence the debate, everybody knows?
Do you wish to withdraw your motion?
I don't think so.
Perfect. So we do have two matters on the table. There will be a motion, which is the staff recommendation, so as per the circulation, and then we have the amendment that is from Councillor Councillor McDonald and Councillor Bidder. The differences being into some of the terminology, and that in the staff recommendation, which has become the motion, the community leases includes renewals and new, and the reporting back for temporary road closures being the two differences.
So is everyone clear about that? Right, so now we will get into debate. And I want to thank colleagues again for the work that you have done on this very important aspect of our arrangements. I want to thank you for the patience that has been shown while my excellent staff in my office and our chairs and Lance and his staff have put the necessary committee mechanisms, information processes and timelines in place. These are designed to enable us to be efficient and effective as we dive into our annual plan, and then the LTP process is in earnest early next year. The annual plan will give us the opportunity to signal the change in direction that I hope we, have set out in the Mayor's plan that has just been discussed in the previous debate. The long-term plan is where we can really start turning the dial, and I know all of you will be coming into that process full of ideas. You've already signalled that. I welcome that and look forward to exploring them with you. Of course, as has already been noted, this is all happening against the background of unprecedented government reform of local government. We know a few of those details, but there's a lot that we don't know yet, and we'll be having to work incredibly hard over the next few months to understand what is being proposed and its implications for us here in Hamilton. It is going to be a pretty fluid environment that we operate in next year. That's why I'm so pleased that we are showing a very collegial and determined approach. Doesn't mean we can't have disagreements, but I really welcome your commitment to working in a connected way through all of this. a lot of work has been going on behind the scenes that won't necessarily be noticeable, particularly to the public, but maybe even to some of our council's staff and members. But as I say, it's all designed to ensure that we streamline and refine our processes. I thank Councillor O'Leary for the huge work that she's been doing in drafting what I think is a really good process for our workshops next year. And our drop-in sessions, be assured there are going to be plenty of them. You'll have seen the calendar for the next year. Have I had 3 minutes? Goodness me. I do get a right of reply there, don't I? You do get a right. I might, so I'll save a few other comments. And it has been, at this stage, it might not be a right of reply. There are no further speakers. I presume that Councillor McDonald will want to speak in reference to her amendment, or have you said what you need to? We now have Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. I'm very supportive of the governance structure. I'm thrilled to chair the procurement subcommittee, and Deputy Chair Graham Mead is going to make a massive contribution. I couldn't have a better person to work with, Graham. Procurement is the interface between internal operations and external suppliers, consultants and contractors. It represents half our operational expenditure and about 90% of our capital expenditure. This is where we can make savings to meet the rates caps without cutting services or staff. I want to reiterate that point. We can make external savings to look after internal operations and our people. It is important that staff work with us because we will be working very hard for them. Councillor Serra spoke about cutting costs leading to poor services. This is a great point and is central to our work. You will get tired of me talking about fit for purpose. Bad quality is not a saving, it is a waste. One of the first items on our agenda for the first procurement meeting is to increase the weighting for preference given to local businesses. This signals a whole of economy approach to council spending. We will be engaging with businesses and community leaders outside council who have the city's best interest at heart to provide expertise pro bono. That is itself a great example of procurement, the best advice at no cost to the public, because our people care about council and want a caring council. In regards to the amendment, minor tweaks to give clarity and certainty over words like minor is good governance, and possibly saves a lot of time and helps staff if something unusual happens. So I ask you to support the amendment, and I look forward to procurement delivering what we need it to deliver.
You to the very passionate chair of the procurement subcommittee. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor McIndoe. Look, just really briefly, again, thank you to yourself and the Deputy Mayor and to the governance team. Putting together a terms of reference document is not easy. There are a whole lot of legal ramifications if we get something wrong, and we cannot afford to get something wrong. So really that's all my debate is about. Congratulations to all the chairs and deputy chairs. I think this is a very lean and focused governance structure that will suit the work that we need to do in the next 12 months and certainly 3 years with all the challenges that we've all laid out. So well done to everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Whip. You are definitely slaying it today. So.
Slaying it.
Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. As the Mayor kind of referenced, there's a whole lot of reform swirling around us at the moment. The RMA reform, what happens to the Waikato Regional Council, rates capping, etc., RMA reform. And that's stuff we all still have to process. But in the meantime, we have a huge work program as a council, and this is where it happens, in the committees that we're approving today. These are the workhorses. This is where it all happens. It's the engine room. And I suggest that I know what it's like to be a new councillor and to be desperate to get into action and to put all your ideas into motion. This is where it happens. This is where you feed into the committees and things get processed. So it's at the moment, it probably feels like there's not enough happening, but come February and March, I think you won't know yourselves because you'll be that flat out. On a personal note, I am really excited to be Deputy Chair of the sexiest committee of all, which is Economic Development and Growth with Maria Huata, who's going to be fantastic. That's so exciting. And the Central City Revitalisation, I'm thrilled that you've brought that in, Tim, which we've been missing that. And I'm working with my colleague Leo here, really excited. And for me, a great thing has just been a number of business people who've reached out in the last month, just saying, hey, we just want to help, we just want to offer advice. Can we come down and have a chat? So that's just really exciting for me. So I think we've got the structure in place here that is going to fulfil elected members' hopes over the next 3 years. I'll be supporting the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, you sexy thing. Councillor McDonald, please.
Thank you. And the terms of reference establish the structure for scrutiny, assurance and financial oversight. They are the pathways through which we'll test our reasoning, examine risks and ensure the discipline expected by our community is evident in our decisions. Audit and risk and procurement specifically provide the mechanisms to look behind the numbers, not just at them. That supports better decision making, particularly in a climate where residents are under strain and there's limited tolerance for spending that isn't clearly justified. On that basis, I support the terms of reference. On the matter of delegations, I understand and support the intent of the delegations being requested. Streamlining processes so that routine operational matters can proceed efficiently makes good sense, and we should not create unnecessary friction where the policy risk is low. That said, I do want to signal something clearly. The broader delegation settings, not the single item, but the framework as a whole, were established in a different environment. And my sense from what the public has communicated to many of us is that there is not universal satisfaction with the current level of delegations, and there is an expectation of stronger elected oversight in some areas. Now, I understand that a comprehensive review of the delegations is scheduled for June 2026, and that is the appropriate forum to examine this as a whole. I would support bringing that forward if possible and anticipate that review will provide the opportunity to reset the balance between staff authority and elected oversight in a way that reflects the community's current expectations. So to be clear, I support the delegation requests put forward today because I can see the operational logic behind them, but that support should not be interpreted as an endorsement of the wider delegation settings, and I expect that we will analyse those thoroughly when the review occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Corrales, please.
Thank you. I'll limit my comments, I'll make comments basically by exception, so you can take it as given that I'm supportive of the terms of reference and the committee structure, etc. I do want to speak to two things in relation to the amendments, and the first is around the delegation for temporary road closures. I think it's really important that the team retains the flexibility to approve temporary road closures even when requests fall within the 42-day window. We don't want to miss out on economic opportunities such as those created by Waikato Screen and the wider film industry, simply because of rigid timeframes and unnecessary processes, so fully supportive of that. I also think in terms of the proposed amendment that it is important that we do have line of sight of decisions that get made. After the fact is fine. No need for lengthy reports, just a statement in the executive updates is sufficient. Otherwise, we risk undermining the reason for which staff has requested this change in delegations. The second point I'd like to speak to is community leases. So obviously organisations need less bureaucratic processes across many arrangements, not just with council. But I do believe it's important for council to have oversight and are involved in the decision making in terms of new leases. I think this is important, not just for council, but also for the team, to protect the team from allegations of bias or things of that nature, but also to give the community confidence in the decision making process. So I do support the limiting of leases, that lease delegation change to renewals as opposed to new leases. I want to emphasise the need for fairness, whether we're talking about new leases or renewals. So fairness in terms of whether it's a mature organisation or a new or emerging organisation. Thank you.
Councillor Corrales. Councillor Mead.
Mayor Tim, I'd like to really put my thanks to Mesh, Andrew and those that have put the work into getting these things right, because these are things we've got to get right. The structure that has been put together in this governance, I think, is going to work. I would like to recommend and tell everybody that there may be a sexy team, but there's the hottest team out there who are unrecognised at New Zealand level of these sports ambassadors, and should be, of Robbie, myself and Jamie. But we have written quite a comprehensive program that will come to the councillors shortly, where we are going to reach out to the whole community, and that's going to be part of a lot of community work. So the thing I'm looking forward to most from what's happening in front of us is that we're going to collaboratively work across all committees. Rather than silos, there'll be things that we do that will help with what Robbie and Maria are doing with Tainui and the iwi. There'll be things that we're doing with Sarah, and we're talking about community with pools and all those sorts of things, and try and pull them all together so we can get to some collaboration and some funding that we work together with. So for me, I think it's a great start to the training.
Mead. Councillor Morini.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. I'm also speaking in favour of the motion. I want to note that when there is a lot of reform going on, both at the level of reforming the way that the committee structures have happened and also the reform that the government is putting upon councils, that has a significant drain on staff time. And so I really want to thank the staff for the way in which they have gone about doing this quickly, and without drama, and giving us the correct information at the correct time, including on the changes coming at us at a fast rate. It does put a strain on resources while business as usual takes place. I want to also endorse the view that we get the balance between operational matters and governance matters right. I'm a strong supporter of ensuring that when we are here elected to represent the community, that we can ensure that we do that, but that we don't make the mistake of thinking that we become the experts, that are subject experts, and therefore make operational decisions. I think it's really important that we don't get into that, and what we have in front of us, I think, is a clear pathway forward. I certainly have lots of views on things to do with transport management, but I am not a transport expert, and when we get the experts who are involved on our staff who we employ for that purpose, and then the community gets to have their say, our view in putting that picture, our place in putting that picture together becomes incredibly important. Finally, yes, I did note that we have a large number of sports ambassadors compared with other ambassadors, and I hope that we ensure that we still make sure that all of those areas of our community get due attention, and that we get the balance right on all of those areas within our community. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. No further contributions. Oh, Councillor Strange comes to the crease at the very last moment.
Yeah, very last minute.
7 batsmen this afternoon.
Yeah, just to assure the previous member, there is a holy trinity of sports ambassadors, but we are one. While we're 3, we're 1. So just to make that very clear.
Right, so today we are hot, sexy, and the Holy Trinity. We might be getting delusions of grandeur here. So I'll move into my right of reply. Thank you all for your excellent comments. They have been very thoughtful again. Oh, I beg your pardon. I will allow Councillor Pike to speak.
Sorry, I didn't.
Councillor Pike.
Yeah, I just want to thank governance staff and the Mayor for their work on this structure. This is something that has to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb to ensure all T's are crossed and I's are dotted, so I thank them genuinely for that. As mentioned in the last meeting, I'm extremely humbled to be chairing, maybe not hot or sexiest committee, but the best committee, alongside Deputy Anna, and we've already been out to a number of community centres with Councillor Robbie as part of our work, as well as umpteen Christmas and end-of-year events in the community, so that's been really excellent. I'm particularly thrilled again to be appointed to the Waikato Civil Defence Joint Committee, which has been becoming an increasingly important space for our city, particularly in light of the introduction of the Emergency Management Bill, which was introduced this week, among many others. And as a result, we'll address how we work closer with our community and bring our decision-making closer to our council as well. I'm equally excited to be chairing dog control alongside Deputy Mesh on one of the only committees that works on a one-to-one basis with our residents, and a matter that's really close to their heart, and I apologise in advance if I cry on that one. I just also want to note briefly that in community leases, in regards to the community leases, that the program of works, one area that will be coming to the community committee will be the community occupancy policy, which will be in alignment with the Mayor's plan. So we will be developing a process to increase transparency of community leases information. So just giving members in the community some assurance that the scope will also be tested within that framework as well. So thanks to everyone for their work on this.
Councillor, there are no further speakers. I should have signalled at the outset that I will support Councillor McDonald's amendment, and I would assume from the comments we've heard that that seems to be the way members are thinking. You've all made excellent comments. I particularly want to endorse the comment of Councillor O'Leary that putting together terms of reference is hugely challenging, and a lot of you have worked very hard on that with our staff, including, I want to acknowledge my own Chief of Staff, Leanne Jordan, who has been a very valuable contributor to that process, for which I am deeply appreciative. As the Deputy Mayor noted, there will be multiple opportunities for all of us as we start in the new year, through all of the mechanisms that have been mentioned in this debate, for you all to raise the topics and areas of concern and interest for us to explore as a council over the course of the next few months, all through next year and beyond. So please do know that you will all have that opportunity. You will all have the opportunity to help shape the committee programs of work, as well as the annual plan and the long-term plan processes. So I really encourage you all to begin regular engagement discussions with the chairs of each of those committees about the areas of key interest to you, so that they're aware of how your concerns and suggestions can be incorporated. And I also want to emphasise my expectation that we do stay focused on the 7 themes in the Mayor's plan. I was deeply heartened by the way in which you all spoke in support of those generally. I really do believe that they reflect the concerns of our residents and ratepayers. So my goal, which I believe you all share, is a simple one, and that is to give Hamiltonians confidence that we are listening to them. We've heard their concerns. We're delivering on what our city needs now and for the future, knowing how challenging that will be, but that is our task, and you're all showing an enthusiasm to get on with it so that we can do that efficiently, responsibly, and sustainably for the betterment of our city and its residents.
Excuse me.
You got the timing quite good. Right.
Excuse me, I've just got a procedural question.
Yes.
Mayor McIntyre, you indicated that you intend to support the amendment.
Yes.
Are you intending to withdraw your motion then?
Well, as far as I can see, the amendment has simply been incorporated into it's not a substantial revision.
At the moment, there's 2 up there.
Become the motion.
Well, we will put the amendment first anyway. That's the normal procedure.
Okay.
So, and I'm signalling that I'm comfortable with the amendment that as it has been proposed. If it is adopted, then that becomes a substantive motion. It doesn't require me to withdraw it, as I understand it. Simply that's the way in which these things are dealt with. Councillor Plank, I think that's correct.
Sorry, just a technical problem. My screen's gone off. If we're voting online or
All right.
or on the board.
just while we're trying to rectify that issue, can I just check with Mesh from a legal procedural point of view that I was correct in the way I described the impact of adopting the amendment?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that, if we adopt the amendment, that becomes a substantive motion.
Yep.
So we will now vote, please, on Councillor McDonald's amendment,
We'll go for a show of
which
hands.
has been, I think it's, shouldn't prejudge it, but I think I can see the way it's going to go. So it's been moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Bidder. All in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand.
And dissenting? The amendment is carried unanimously.
Oh, James didn't get his big moment today.
So we'll now as the substantive motion.
Yes. So do we need to vote again?
Yep.
So the amendment has now become the substantive motion. I know it seems as if we've already voted on it, but now could we vote upon that as the substantive motion? All in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Again, that is, thank you, Annie, that is carried. So thank you. That brings item 7 to a close. We can now move to item 8, which is the elected members' support and allowances policy. And Councillor Mead, you're going to move this. We're going to have morning tea. I thought we were going to have morning tea for. We are going to be having a lunch. Do you want to have a quick break? It's 11:10. Would members like to go to morning tea now? There is cake, and if we adjourn now and perhaps resume at 11:30, does that sound reasonable?
clarify that the processes that the elected members have asked to be updated to ensure better reporting, etc., it is intended that that will happen and that within a reasonable time frame.
Yes, absolutely is. I have already had one meeting with Councillor Mead to work through the process, and we'll be ensuring that you all have access to it via the new Teams channel swiftly.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. It's my understanding that Councillor Mead will move this item, so we'll move into debate and invite Councillor Mead to speak. Oh, sorry, just check. Our seconder for this motion is Councillor Bidder. Thank you. So the motion is now open for debate. Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Tim. Amy and I have spent some time since the last meeting discussing this, and there's not a lot of changes here. She's gone through and made it so it's simple. The main thing that at the beginning of this was about accountability of what we're doing to make sure that it is a benefit to the council. And the onus that Amy and I have come back to is that we will put the onus back onto you as elected councillors, and you will report on what you are doing, because the onus will then go on you, and you'll take responsibility for what you consider. If I've got that right, Amy, that you will take responsibility for what you consider is of benefit to the council. If that's The Simpsons, and it's not, bet on your head sometime, but you've got to make good decisions about what you're going to use these for. I'm not wanting to stand in the way of any business whatsoever. If it's business relationships and it's things that a staff are doing, that's great. But I need you to ask as councillors to everything we go to that you take responsibility for what you are going to go to and what you're going to do. And it's a simple little form Amy's got to say, I went there. And that's it. If it works, it works. So we're all big people. Let's be adult and make good decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Mead. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Bidder.
Just to cover off the professional development for the public who weren't part of the discussion, councillors did have a discussion on potential cuts to the professional development budget in line with trying to keep costs under control given rates caps and everything. And I had raised the issue of a significant reduction in professional development. And then we looked at the figures for the last triennium, and councillors had spent far less than the budget, and I was satisfied that that was a good, responsible use of the available funds. So council's on the right track there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bidder. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. I would just like to support the intention and the intention that Councillor Mead has advocated for this to be reviewed. I agree that it's appropriate that elected members attend community events and that often this involves tickets being provided so that councillors can engage directly with organisations, volunteers and residents. That engagement is part of doing our job well and engaging with our community. I also recognise that sometimes the reporting requirements can feel disproportionate to the value of a ticket. But the principle here is not about cost, it's about transparency and it's about accountability. And the public should be confident that their elected representatives are visible in the community and that their participation is appropriate and open for scrutiny because it's recorded correctly. This policy provides a clear process for doing just that. It enables attendance where appropriate and ensures that reporting and approval steps are explicit. The integrity of this policy depends on those reporting processes being followed properly, and I believe that expectation is reasonable and important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Moroney.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. Just want to echo the sentiments that have been expressed already in this discussion, but also add that a really important part of the transparency around what is broadly called gifting within our regime is to ensure that we do our work as elected councillors without fear or favour or without undue influence. And I think that's an important part of this discussion, is to make sure that when we are debating issues important to our community around this table, that we are doing that in the interests of all of our community, not because we have had special favours from a particular part of that community. And I also just want to make sure that we recognise that when we're talking about doing our jobs, it is about connecting with all of our community, of which the business community is part of. It is not the only rationale for why we may be in the situation where we are receiving some hospitality. There are a range of community organisations that we do engage with and should engage with as councillors, and it's right across the spectrum. Thank you.
No further speakers? Councillor Mead, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think everything's been said.
Good, thank you. Thank you for those who have spoken. I will put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? No. That,
Carried unanimously.
And Councillor Casey Cox has supported it online. Thank you. So that is carried unanimously. We move on now to item number 9, which is on page 93 in Diligent, the schedule of council and committee meetings. But really the key one is on page 97. And just before we move to adopt that, that has also been a huge amount of work. And I particularly acknowledge Councillor O'Leary, who's been instrumental in trying to ensure that we make things fit, ably assisted by a number of staff. So thank you for the good work that has gone on there, and it really does reiterate the comment that the Deputy Mayor made earlier, that we are going to be busy, because when you look at that, you'll have a lot of reading, a lot of meetings, a lot of preparation, and do try to get a little bit of a break over Christmas because you're going to need it. So this is now open for questions. If anyone has any questions to raise, and they might be directed to Councillor O'Leary, but not necessarily.
Just have a question for clarification. Can I just assume that DLC is the District Licensing Committee on this? Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. That?
Can I ask what the network meeting is of a District Licensing Committee?
So that's 2 different meetings. One of them is the district licensing meeting, and then you do have quite a lot of networking meetings. Unfortunately, the size of the cells, but to make it fit the whole year, there is quite a few where there is double, triple meetings.
Thank you.
Councillor Huata?
Kia ora. Are you able to show me where the future-proof meetings are? Are they included?
Some of them are. So if you go to, for instance, the 20th of February, there is a Future-Proof Implementation Committee meetings, FPIC. We, again, double up cement. We've started to use some acronyms all the way through. We are waiting for those ones to be confirmed by other councils before we cement them in.
Thank you.
Confirmed tomorrow, because there is a future-proof.
There is a future-proof one, yes, but it's the Waikato regional
But
side.
might not be after, so it won't be confirmed at that point. But yes, because there are acronyms galore, I can understand why it might not be immediately apparent. Thank you. Any further questions? Then thank you. I think we've finished the questions, and Councillor O'Leary is moving. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Strange, thank you. I'll open that up now for debate. Councillor O'Leary.
Amy, for all of your work on this. This is like moving chairs on the Titanic. But my main message here is, well, this won't be everything that we have to attend. I note there's no Waikato Regional Council Transport Subcommittees in here yet. Those members involved in that pretty much attend that building every Friday. So welcome to that. But what I want to say also is that it was only last week that I went to Amy around our annual plan workshops. We had programmed one workshop, and then we were going to be in this chamber as adopting a draft, and I have been listening and through our annual plan meetings and our induction, and I didn't think that that would work for particularly our newly minted elected members. So we now have 3 workshops to prepare for the annual plan discussions before we adopt. So we've basically pushed that council meeting out by a month. to ensure effective and really good decision making and governance. So again, Amy, you're the star in this particular show, so thank you.
Thank you.
It's not easy.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary, and I absolutely endorse your gratitude to Amy. Thank you very much. Councillor Corrales? Yes, Councillor Corrales is speaking next.
Thank you. I just want to preface my comments with this, and I think everybody around the table has acknowledged in some form that we do have tough financial decisions ahead, and we heard clearly from the community through the campaign that transparency and accountability must really be front and centre from that perspective. I think there is an expectation in the community that if ever there was a triennium that requires close scrutiny, vigorous interrogation and tight controls around spending and debt management, it is this one. And I just want to assure the public that this is well understood. And the reason I make these comments is because people who have an interest in this will have picked up that the Finance and Assurance Committee, it's presently proposed, the team has proposed that these meetings for the committee occur quarterly as opposed to bi-monthly as they did in the last triennium, and that this would be supported by robust reporting and then with interval reporting in between. We are still working through what this might look like in practice, including how transparency and accountability to the public will be maintained in terms of the quarterly intervals. And so while we've yet to see a detailed approach, I am comforted by the fact that the terms of reference allow the committee to meet more frequently without needing to return to council for an amendment to the terms of reference. And if the proposed reporting rhythm is insufficient, or if we can't address transparency concerns, the solution will simply be to schedule additional meetings. This particular matter may surface in the new year, and I'm just flagging that for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corrales, and I appreciate the fact that you've done so, because I do understand your concern and absolutely share your desire to ensure that we allow sufficient time for what is such a vital part of our operations, or our, I shouldn't say operations, our governance function. Are there any further speakers? There being none, Councillor O'Leary, do you wish to exercise a right of reply? It's not necessary. That being the case, I will put the motion. All in favour, please say aye or raise your hand. Those against?
Carried unanimously.
Thank you again. Councillor Casey Cox has also supported the motion online. So we, just before we move on to the resolution to exclude the public, which is a standard procedural motion at this point, in closing this meeting, could I thank you all again for the excellent contributions today and in recent times. Would you please allow me just also to acknowledge three very special people, actually possibly four, and they are the wonderful team in the Mayor's office, because as a new Mayor, I want you to know how deeply appreciative I am to Leanne Jordan, my Chief of Staff, to Tash Lawrence, who's at the back of the room, my unflappable press officer, even when she gets text messages from me, sometimes very late at night, sometimes at the weekend. And also in recent times, Claire Hornsey, who has come in, and I do also want to acknowledge Christine Wright, who was with us at the start of the term. Those three people have made it possible for me to do what I do in ways that probably would not have been particularly good had they not been there. So to those three, I do want to say a sincere thanks. But to all of you, to all of your families, my deep appreciation to all of our staff. As I mentioned earlier, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. So I will close the meeting there, but we do need to have the resolution to exclude the public. So I will move that. Could I have a seconder? That's been seconded by Councillor O'Leary. All in favour, please say aye. Against, no, that is carried. We'll have a brief adjournment and then we will resume in the PX section of our meeting.